Hashem, Hashem, I'd like to welcome everyone to today's shir from Rabbi Shlita on issur מחיקה, Hashem, erasing the name of Hashem. To have the great schos of sponsoring a shir, call Irgun Shir Torah 718-851-8651 or email ist@yeshivanet.com. Rav Smith.
This summer, someone bought our camp a few hundred new siddurim, and we had now old siddurim that basically was still useful, but they're not as appealing as the new siddurim. And the question is, what do you do with the old siddurim? Are you allowed to just bury it? In other words, the assumption is our siddurim have Shem Hashem in it, full Shem Hashem. What do you do with things that have the complete Shem Hashem? We had a shiloh where someone found that they had a newspaper. I'm not sure exactly why, but they had Yud Kei Vav Kei printed on one of the pages. So this and many other shilohs, of course, will talk about CDs and recordings and computers. An interesting question about writing Beis Hey on top of a page. Does that have any type of kedusha? The two yudin that are typically used in some svarim. But basically, I think I must tell you that there's no doubt about it that the issur of erasing Shem Hashem is in a class for itself. You think about the source in Parshas Re'eh, where we know the issur Mechikah Hashem. It's the pasuk talking about avodah zarah lahavdil. Abe ta'abdun as kala mekaina is utterly destroy it. Be baratem as shmam, erase the name of avodah zarah. And then the pasuk says words it's almost hard to say. Loisasun kein lashem olekeichem. Don't do that to the Rabbi Shalom. Right away it sends a shudder down our spine. Can we do anything to the Rabbi Shalom? The Rabbi Shalom is not a guf. And anything comparable to ibadatem as shmam? Zok Sifri and Piskates. How do we know that there's an issur deraisa to erasing even one letter of Shem Hashem? Shenema, and he quotes this pasuk, the issur deraisa of erasing Shem Hashem is learned from the pasuk, there is something that us human beings could do, kaviyachol 1,000 times, do directly to the Rabbi Shalom. And that's being mezalzel and even one letter. Not just the entire Shem Hashem. And this gepaskin that I was saying today, Yerdei, Reish, Ayin, Vav, Sif, Tes. Amazing. Is there anything similar to this? But there's more than this. Because if you look in the Minchas Chinuch and Mitzvah Samach Tes and Kaimitz Mincha, he makes a reasonable cheshvan that if there's an issur deraisa to say Shem Hashem, Hashem Alekecha Tira, so logic dictates there's also an issur deraisa of erasing Shem Hashem, but it's not a lav, it's an asay, and therefore he uses to explain the Gemara that erasing Shem Hashem is a lav and asay. That has the mezuzah on it. Forget about them. The problem is that you can't erase the mezuzah, burn the mezuzah, because it's an lav and asay in erasing Shem Hashem. So obviously for us, mida taiva meruba, when a person is careful with the Shem Hashem, then he's mekayim the mitzvah Hashem alekecha tira. But what I think we have to stress before we apply this more lemaisa, that it's not just erasing Shem Hashem. From the Sifri, it's even an ois achas has the same issur, because each letter of Shem Hashem is like a stick of dynamite. Of course, the 4 letters add up to an atom bomb. But each letter individually, independently, is very, very chashuv. And we see that from another halacha that I think should be mentioned. The Mishnah says in Sanhedrin Daf Tzadik, the elu she'ein lem chelik olam haba, there are people, a category of people who don't have olam haba. One of them is a hoiges Hashem ba'oisi yoisav. If he says the oisius of Shem Hashem, so one of the pshatim, that's the way the Radvaz and Elaf Tavches, the Chayodim, Kal Hey, Siv Chazayin quotes this. Not only if he pronounces Shem Hashem with the Nikudis, but merely pronouncing the letters, saying, so we say Yud Kei Vav Kei, but that to say Yud and then say Hey, and then to say the other letters would be Hoiges Hashem Ba'isi Yoisa. He's not pronouncing it, he's not even saying it. But merely saying the 4 letters is already a deraisa. Because the point is, each letter is a stick of dynamite. And I stress that because we're going to have to use it as we proceed. And that's why it should be mentioned, especially the young bar mitzvah bachim, they don't know better. No one told him They take out the siddur, l'shem yichud, when you put on tefillin, or talis, or dalit mina for that matter, or any shem yichud if you say it. And it says Yeshem Yud K Bevav K. Now the siddur doesn't write Yud and then a K like in English. It writes Yud and then it says a Hey. But they expect us to have to mechanech our children. I say to the yeshiva and the Baruchim don't know this. I don't know if they have a chinuch. But when we say if you say l'shem yichud Yud K Bevav K. Now there's another halacha we see that even every ois is already very very kadosh. It's noteworthy. We say we put something in shaimos. That's a wrong word. The real word is geniza. But it's become shaimos because the ikar chi of geniza is by Shem Hashem, as we'll see. Do we need more than this? The Gemara says in Sukkah, Nun Gimel, when the world was threatened by a devastating flood, so David had a shaila what to do. Could he throw a chaspa in, which had Shem Hashem, to save from destruction? Now, would we ask a shaila? But I guess if you learn and you understand, you're doing something to Bari Olam, then you ask a shayla, even b'makim pekuach nefesh. But I was a spell how many halachos Chazal made to protect us from coming l'day Mechikah Hashem. The Ramah, in the end of our Siman Reish Ayin Vav and Yeridea, you're not allowed to write a Shem l'chatchila unless it's in a sefer. Don't write Shem Hashem on a paper, because you might lose it, you might misplace it, it might end up in the garbage. So keep a Shem Hashem in a sefer that will never be thrown out. In Shabbos Samachal, and this is also gepasken by the pesukim, that if there's a Shem written on a keli, for some reason, I'll give you a mashal in a moment, don't use the keli as it is, because you might use the keli, and that would eventually cause the Shem Hashem to decay. So first, cut out the Shem Hashem, of course, without destroying it. Put the Shem Hashem in shaimos, and use a sefer gezun to hate. In other words, we have to appreciate the kedusha of the Shem and treat with great caution. I'll give you an interesting example. This is on page 1 of Orach Chaim, both in Shulchan Aruch and Mishnah Berurah. First page, the Shara Tshuva in Siman Aleph, Sif Cotton Gimel, quotes from the Tvu Ashar, the Gedolei Kadmonim, that there was a minig in those days that in every siddur, God, you still see it in the old siddurim, they had printed a menorah with a big Yud Kei Vav, Shivisi Hashem Lenegdi Sama with a big Yud Kei Vav Kei, and that was put in every siddur. It was also put by the Chazin's Amud, like you see right here to my left, big Yud Kei Vav Kei. Now the reason it was in all siddurim and by the Amud, so people should realize Shivisi Hashem Lenegdi Samid, and don't talk by davening. So the Tvu Ashar said, I don't understand. You're printing Shem Hashem in a siddur, the page falls out, and people look at it, it's not part of davening, they throw it out, or whatever they do. It's an Akamidei Mechika. You say you have a noble intention, they shouldn't come to talk. So he goes, without the Shivisi, you can't stop talking? So he said, of course, but Derech Tzach is, Im Loi Shivisi V'doimamti. Without the Shivisi, you can't be quiet. So he says, stop it. Stop this nonsense of printing Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei in every siddur. He says, on the Chazin's Amud that is there to stay, and of course, I should mention, you have a plastic, in those days, a glass covering, so the candles, smoke of the candles shouldn't ruin the lettering, fine. On the Chazin's Amud, okay. But in every siddur, don't do it. So it's the sensitivity that Yidden had. I'll give you another mashal. It's halacha in Yeridei Reish Pei Vav Sifei in the Mechaba, and the end of Reish Pei Chesed Ramah, 2 places in Shulchan Aruch. You're supposed to put the shakai, of course, the name shakai, on the mezuzah that is facing towards outward. So when you walk in, you see the Shem shakai, and that's why many people mahada to have a clear mezuzah case. But says the Taz, although it would be better to carve out from the case, so you can actually see the actual shakai, but don't leave the shakai uncovered. Because when you reach up to kiss the mezuzah, you're going to end up being moichik the Shem shakai. So that's why, although it's better to put the mezuzah as it is, shakai is totally exposed, that might cause a mechikah Shem. Now let's try to apply this more specifically. So what's the halacha regarding l'mashal 2 yudin, regarding the ois hey, Shem Hashem in God in English, Gimel Aleph Tes in Yiddish. And again, we have to start with the sensitivity, like sasun kein Hashem olekeichem. So the Gemara in Shavuos of Lamed Hey has 7 shaimos she'einam nimchakim. Those are the primary names of Hashem. Agav, interesting again, the Gemara refers to Hashem as einam nimchakim. It's all about מחיקה. That's the cheshivas of it. What are the shiva shaimos? Kael, of course I'm saying it improperly by reason. Kael elekecha elekim elekeichem. Eka ashe eka, parsha Shmois. Aleph Dalid, Yud Kei Vav Kei, Shakai, and Savakos. These are, you're not allowed to raise Chas v'Shalom. But description of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Gadol, Giba, Noira, Adich, and Chazak, etc., although we'll soon see it has some Kedusha, but you're allowed to erase it. Because that's not the Baruch Shalom's name, that's a description. It's like you say, Chaim is a Baal Chesed. Okay, his name is Chaim. Is his last name Baal Chesed? No. Baal Chesed is a description, right? Not name. So the Baruch Shalom's name is Yud Kei Vav Kei and Adnus, etc. But Gibor, Noira is the Baruch Shalom's Midos. That's called a Kinui. Okay? Now, Lamaisa, we see no reference to 2 Yudin. So who maybe Taka 2 Yudin that we had all siddurim, granted lately we've become more firm and all the siddurim print Yud Kei Vav Kei. But typically siddurim all had 2 Yudin. There's no mention in the Gemara. Maybe Taka allowed to erase it. More so, the fact, why do we use 2 Yudin in a siddur? We'll soon see the exact source, but we don't want to print Yud Kei Vav Kei. So if I'm using 2 Yudin as a substitute, why should it have Kedusha? Or maybe, and listen to this, since the 2 Yudin, presumably, the Yud comes from Yud Kei Vav Kei, so maybe this is a violation of Moichik Ois Achas Min Hashem. It's the Yud of Yud Kei Vav Kei. So you can't erase it. But that's totally illogical. Because if you have spelled out Yud Kei Vav Kei, a full Shem Hashem, and then erasing a Yud is Chas V'Shalom Alav. But just a Yud, it's unreasonable to think that's Shem Hashem. And it's probably, this is why the Sefer Chassidim, one of the Rishonim, in Tav Saf Kuf Lamed Hey, he writes, if Adam Kaisev Biksav 2 Yudin, Liyos Remez HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yachal Limchayk, you'll have to erase it. And I think he's very brief, Kederach HaRishonim, what he's saying, the reason is because I'm using it dafka as a substitute. So don't turn it into a Shem Hashem. So according to the Sefer Chassidim, Yehуда Chassid, one of the Balei HaTosfos, there's no issur of erasing or discarding 2 Yudin. However, this is not halacha l'maisa. There was a later gadol, the Trumas Hadeshen in Chelik Beis Kuf Ayin Aleph, who was asked about erasing the 2 Yudin, but this is a little later in history. See, the Sefer Chassidim says a person did it, but in the times of Trumas Hadeshen, he writes it was used in siddurim in place of Yud Kei Vav Kei. But it's interesting. The original minig was 2 Yudin and a Vav on top. Why? Because 2 Yudin is 20 and Vav is 26, so it's Keneged Yud Kei Vav Kei. We'll soon see the Radvaz had a minig, also at that time, to have 3 Yudin. Why 3 Yudin? Because 3 Yudin is Gematria 30, so 26 Yud Kei Vav Kei plus 4 letters is 30. So they wanted to get a reference, but not to Shem Hashem. But so says they asked the Trumas Hadeshen, can I erase something that represents Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei? So he says, well, one second. The Gematria, that's not enough to make a Shem Hashem. Varaya, if Gematria is a problem, then you can't erase the word Havadai. Don't forget Havadai Shmoi, because it's also 26, but you'll have to erase Havadai. Okay. Maybe you can't erase 2 Yudin because it's Remes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Oichidnish, the Trumas Hadeshen. Because the Gemara says, Shloima in Shir Hashirim is Kodesh. It's a reference to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but you'll have to erase Shloima. So he says, you know what the real reason is? Because the Yud of the Yudin is the first letter of Yud Kei Vav Kei, and he quotes an important Tosis. Tosis in Shavuos Lamed Hey says if a person wrote even Yud Kei, it's already a shame. Or Aleph Daled you can't erase. Tzadik Beis of Tzvakos you'll have to erase. Or Shin Daled of Shaka you'll have to erase. But the first two letters of Yud Kei Vav Kei has Kedusha. So reasons the Trumas Hadeshen, the Yud of Shtei Yudin is the first of the Yud Kei Vav Kei, so maybe it has Kedusha. But then again, as he seems to hold, well, Kedusha is not part of Yud Kei Vav Kei. So listen to his Lashon. Ula yesh loima, that since it's from the Shem HaMeyuchid, yesh lahachma yoisa, v'im ein tzorich gadol b'dava, lama nata l'moichik. If you don't have to do it, why are you doing it? Very power of a mild Lashon. In other words, there really is no issur. But shaloi l'tzorich gadol, don't do it. And this is the reason for the two Yud. It's basically the Yud of Yud Kei Vav Kei. Maybe a little more to it also, because those that know that the Shiluv of Yud Kei Vav Kei and Adnos, when it's put together, is a different Shem. And in that Shiluv of Yud Kei Vav Kei and Adnos, the Yud starts and the Yud concludes. But be that as it may, Lamaisa, the Trumas Hadeshen seems that it's not a real issur, but it shouldn't be done Shaloi L'Tzorech Gadol. The Radvaz, Chelik Aleph Reish Vav, his Cheshvan in the siddurim, because it's three Yudin, he also says the same thing, there's no issur. And this is quoted in Shulchan in the Ramah Reish Ayin Vav Yud. You should only erase it L'Tzorech. Zok the Shach, wait a second, he misquoted the Trumas Hadeshen. It's only Mut L'Tzorech Gadol. Now, I wonder, Taka, why people write, that the two Yudin were more careful. But now you understand why. Because Lamaisa, the two Yudin has a certain amount of Kedusha. Okay, fine. Now I'm going to ask you another question, which you might find surprising. Okay, so two Yudin, Lamaisa, you're not supposed to erase. Do I have to put two Yudin in shaimos? So Lamaisa, I saw a quote from Rabbi Yashiv and Nissen Karelitz that there's no chiv shaimos on two Yudin. As long as it doesn't come with a b'zion, you don't have to put in shaimos. Why? Because it's not really Shem Hashem. To be moichegit, to do a maisa of מחיקה is awesome. But just to put it in shaimos, there's no chiv. But a little more than that, I want to tell you, Rav Sternbuch in Chelik Aleph Tov Reish Mem quotes Brisker Rav. The Brisker Rav says that when there are more Trumas Hadeshen say you're not allowed to erase it, it's not a din of issur mechika. It's an issur b'zoyin. There can't be an issur mechika if it's not from the shaimos and mechakim. So what then is the issur? It's an issur of b'zoyin. And Yedemis is the Pischei Tshuva on the page by us, Reish Ayin Vav Tezayin. He says, don't raise two Yudin, B'zeu mikibud Hashem v'yirosai. Very similar to the Brisker Rav's understanding. And the emes says it can't be an issur of mechika because the Gemara has the list and it's not there. Rav Moshe in Yeridea Beis Kuf Lamed Ches does add that even though there's no chi of shaimos, but don't be mevaza the shnei Yudin. And this is not news to us. Lamashal tzitzis, there's no chi of shaimos. But don't be mevazid. Haishanis, there's no chi of shaimos on Haishanis, geklapt Haishanis. But look how people are careful, they don't throw it in the garbage, they put it on top of the oren, whatever. So the point is that two Yudin is not the Shem Hashem. We don't erase it unless it's Tzorech Gadol, but there's no chi of shaimos. Oh. Now, when I once saw someone that wrote two Yudin, and he put a line between the two Yuds, that's a little of a chumrah. Nothing wrong with writing two Yudin. It's not even Shem Hashem. Okay. When you write Yud Kei Vav Kei, of course, you must put lines. Hopefully that will take off the issur. Okay. Now the next question is Shem Hashem in Laz. For example, Gimel Aleph Tes in Yiddish, German, and God in English. So Lamaisa, it's not mentioned in the Gemara, that's for sure. More than that, Shem Hashem, as we said, every letter is a stick of dynamite. Gimel Aleph Tes, Gimel is a nice letter, but it's not a dynamite, it's not Yud Kei Vav Kei. Or maybe we will say that in a certain this is worse than Beis Yudin. Because Lamaisa, this is the Shem Hashem. We mentioned this a few weeks ago. The Ramosha in Yeridea, Simon Kuf Ayin Beis says, Almighty, Bashefa, Rabbeinu Shalom, Lord, all these words are descriptions. But but Lamaisa, God, which is really a takeoff of Gimel Aleph Tes, which is a German word, is the Shem Etzem of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, of course, it's not really Yud Kei Vav Kei because some person decided Gimel Aleph Tes has meaning, but Lamaisa, it's used as the Baruch Sham's name. So Lamaisa, we spoke just a few weeks ago when we spoke about saying the Shem Hashem, that there are places where you're allowed to say it. G-O-D, Gemal Avtes, it's not Shem Hashem, because some person decided to make it Shem Hashem. But, as we mentioned then, there's a Mechaben Choshen Mishpat Chav Zayin in the beginning. If someone curses another Yid, B'Shem Chas V'Shalom, then he's Oyvan Alav, and including if he uses a Shem that Goyim use. And the Tumim, Sivkot and Beis on this, I'll say it because it's like Geir for Torah. If someone says, God solim strafin, God solim shlagin, the Moshe should punish him, he's Oyvan Alav of Makala B'Shem. Because it is, in a certain sense, the Shem Hashem. And he goes on to express his pain. But when he's saying, Rabbi writes, people use the Shem Hashem in Yiddish, God Salam Strafim. He adds a Shem Hashem in French, in fact, because it's not simple. This is the Rebbeinu Shalom's name in a different language. And the Sharetzian and Pei Hey Sivkot and Tezvav quotes the Yeshnoich, the father of the Shlah, who adds another name in Polish, Buga, whatever it is, and he writes, people use it, and it's a terrible churban. You're using Shem Hashem. The Rav, the Chayyodin, the Kitzah, the Mishnah Berurah twice, and Pei Hey Yud, and Reish Tezvav Yud Tes, all quote this, not to say Shem Hashem for no reason. In fact, I just saw the Chsam Soif and Parshas Chukas. He writes that people today have books in German, and when you read a book, typically you pronounce the words. So he says, warn your family that when they read the books with their mouth, don't pronounce the Gimel Aleph Tes in the story. He said, Hashem Yatzilem Yoinish Chilul Shmoy Hagadol. Now, it's not exactly Yud Kei Vav Kei, but it's enough. So now this is why we said then, and we'll say it again, when people, sometimes you hear, especially your Peish Yidden, God Ganze Danken, that's being praising Hashem. But to say the word using G-O-D or Gimel Avtes for no reason, people say, oh my G-O-D, why can't it stop raining already? What do you want from the Baruch Shalom? What does he have to do with the rain? You have a problem, God to him, when are you going to come out of the bathroom? People say, the funniest, the horrible misuse of Shem Hashem. So this is why Lamaisa will say, Gimel Aleph Tes, G-O-D, does have an element of Kedusha. We don't say it Shaloi L'Tzoyrech. Okay. I'm using G-O-D and Gimel Aleph Tes interchangeably because no difference. Oh. But now I'll ask you a very tricky question. Are you allowed to erase the Shem Gimel Aleph Tes or G-O-D? So we would say erase it. If it's a Shem Hashem, how could you erase it? But there's a big chilek. Because the issur of erasing is erasing the Shem Hashem, that each letter is a stick of dynamite. But there's nothing in G-O-D per se. It's read as a Shem Hashem. But maybe we're going to say that saying it is a problem, but erasing it maybe is no problem. There's no kedusha inherently to G-O-D. And the Tashbis in Chelik Aleph Siman Beis says beferish regarding the Shem Meturgum, you're allowed to erase it. The more mefurish, the Radvaz in Gimel Tav Sav Samach Beis, you're like this one. Someone swore with the name Alala. I don't know who that is, but that's the Arabic god. And he says, Bor, that he's over on Shvua B'Shem. He says, why? So it's not because Alala has the Shem Kale. Don't forget the Aleph Lamed. No. Because they pronounce it Al with a Pasach, and we pronounce it Lahavdil with a Tzeirei. But he says, the Maisa, it's the Shem Hashem in, don't forget, the Arabs also believe in the Bnei Shalom. But the Maisa, you're allowed to erase that word Alala, because there's no Kedusha, Biksivasa Uva Oisi Oisav. If you have any doubt, the Shach, much earlier in Kufay and Tesiv Kat Yud Aleph, he's talking about a different sugya, but he's Agaba Atzmecha. You're allowed to erase the word got in Lashon Ashkenaz, or bug b'Lashon Poilin. To him was Pashit Hagaba Atzmecha. Now, Lamaiser B'Kiva Ega adds another beautiful point to this sugya in the Tshuva Siman Chafei. Someone had a suffix to say a bracha or not, so he decided he has a good idea. He'll say a bracha using Shem Hashem in Laz. And listen to his Einfeld. Since we know the Shach says you're allowed to erase the Shem Hashem in Laz, so maybe he doesn't have a Shem Hashem, so you're allowed to make a bracha. Zot Kivega, no, chas v'shalom. You made a wrong dimion. Avad Shem Hashem in Laz has kedusha. Mekalol b'Shem in God there's Zraf your Oiva. But the lettering don't have an issur מחיקה. And he explains the shach like I told you, because the lettering of the words just don't have that kedusha. And he brings a raya from the name Shloima. Shloima does represent Shem Hashem, but it's not the Oisius. So it seems very clear, this chiddush, it don't sound like a chiddush, that Loshin, Shem Hashem in a different language, we saw already Yiddish, English, French, and Polish. You shouldn't say the Shem Shalei Tzorich, but erasing it is mutter. And the Mishnah in Pei Yud says it so beautifully, explains it, because Loshin Laz, he says Ashkenaz or Polish, the Shem has no kedusha ba'oisiyosa b'ksivasai, and that's without erase it. But to use it or misuse it is an issur. So now we're going to say that the point is the letters G-O-D don't have any kedusha. Now listen to this. Someone told us, I couldn't think of this on my own. He says, look at the letters G-O-D. It's gematria 26. I said, gematria? Since when? So he explained that Gimel is the 7th letter in the alphabet, D is the 4th, and O is the 15th, adds up to 26. Take it as you like it, but I'm just telling you what someone told me. Now let's move on, okay? So apply this lamaisa, but it's interesting how, Allah, everything's all about the Barshev's name. Okay, now let's apply this lamaisa. Let me start with a Pashat Halacha lamaisa that needs to be mechuzik. The Mishnah in Kuf Lamed Tes Lamed Daled says the minig is that when you get aliyah, you're supposed to take a talis or a garat, whatever, and kiss the Sefer Torah. So the many pesukim decry the minig. Some people, they're excited to get an aliyah, finally they take the talis and with a vengeance they rub the lettering. So you could possibly over 3 issur Torah. If you moich Shem Hashem, if not, Mechika on Shabbos, we get Li on Shabbos, and also your mazik. So you're passing Sefer Torah. The Mechazalaza in the Mukher Chaim, Kuf Lamates, decries the minig greatly. Now the Maisa, no, it's not going to happen in one time, that's for sure. But Leisasen King Hashem will Leikeichen. Someone asked me an interesting question, maybe you shouldn't kiss the mezuzah. I said, why not? Because on the case there's a shin. So it's the shin of Shakai. I said, first of all, the plastic shin is not going anywhere. It's not like lettering. But besides that, Tosis said already, even the Shin Dalid of Shakai, its first 2 letters, is not a problem. It's only Yud K or Aleph Dalid. Question that people ask, names that have partial Shem Hashem. Don't forget, Ka, Yud K, is already Shem Hashem. Yehuda, Yeshua, Michael, Yeshayo, I would think a third of the names have these issues. Yisrael, Gavriel, it's endless. So the emphasis in Halacha, there's no problem. My name is Yeshua, not Ka Yesheacha Meitas Miraglim. So even though maybe the original Gavriel is Gibar Kel, but my name is Gavriel, well, what's wrong? And that's why in Halacha there's no issur. Okay, they were definitely Mefakpakim and Madagtikim, they would write Yehuda, Yudvav, Dalar Aleph, and the Chazon Ish never spelled his name ever Yeshayahu, Yeshaya. So that's, a Machmer, Tavay La Brach. A little more of an issue is the name Shalom, because Shalom is different. Shalom, already Toisvis, the Shabbos, Daf Yud, the Gemara says, Shem Gufa Ikri Shalom. The Barshev's name is Shalom. Quotes a pasuk, and Toyson Saita advances that and says, therefore, it says, although it's not in the list of Sheva Shemesh Ein Mchakim in Shvuis, Tana V'Shaya. Wow, I mean, it should be there. Yeah, so that's more than that. According to this, the Ramah says, don't even write the name Shalom, because it's one of the Sheva Sheimos Shein Mchakim. Zok Shach, but Roiv Oilam Ein Nazar Bezeh, and he quotes a Rush. So that's why there are more medagdagim with the name Shalom, even saying it in the Merchas, like you said, even calling your friend Shalom. Some say, well, that might be better. So that's a different sugya, but as known of Yosef Shalom or Yosef, he never signed his name Shalom with a complete Shalom, he left out the mem. What I found interesting, and I ate a toiv if you have time, this Friday night is a long Friday night. For an Oynik Shabbos, take out a Stei Chemed, in most prints it's at the end of Chelik Hay, and he has what's called Ber B'Stei. Fascinating insight into halacha, into history, is unbelievable. He wrote a sefer that was an instant bestseller. and the whole world was found it very, very favorable. And he got many letters showing the greatness of the sefer. He got one letter from who calls him Ma'arer that says, how do you call your sefer stay chemed? That's the Shem Shakai. So he writes back, I'm surprised. So many people wrote letters that they like the sefer. No one mentioned that. And by the way, he says the stay is like, I guess Sadeh Mechuralach. And I wanted to write stay and not sin Dalet Hey to Meramas Yushalayim where I was born. But you tell me it's a problem? He was a big tzaddik. I'll have to write the... And he wrote to every gadol in that time. I mean, you see the who's who. He wrote to Rafal Shapiro, the Nitziv's Eidim, Chaim Shver. He wrote to the Marsham, Reb Shlomo Vilna, the Aderes, the Aruch HaShulchan, the Lomzherov, the Levavarov, the other Pesukim. But they go through every one of these shilas, a base kale, they don't say ginger ale, but that shilah, and all these names, and names, Yehuda, Yeshua, anything about this is there. It's a beautiful thing if you have some time to go through it, but they all say there's no shilah. Sadai, Mechuralach is not Shakai. I mean, even Elohim Acherim you're allowed to write because it's not like Shem Hashem. But if you want to know more about this sugya, that's the place to look. The Rekeach, one of the Baliyat Toises, in Siman Reish Sadegvav records a minig that we have something similar to that. We have a 3-year-old getting upshare, and the honey lekin goes to yeshiva. It wasn't 3 years old, it was on Shavuos. And they had a whole procedure with eggs and cake and cookies, and they had pesukim, serious pesukim, ayin sham, Torah tziva lanu, Hashem elikim nasan li l'shayin lemudim, and other pesukim. So, Frek the B'nai Yoina. B'nai Yoina is on the Das Kedoshim. He was Rabbi Yoina Lansdorfer, the Me'il Tzedakah, one of the Kadmoinim. And he asked a question, off on our Reish, I involve Sif Yud Gimel. How could you raise the pasuk, Hashem Elikim Nasan L'Shayin Lemudim? What about Shem Hashem? You give the child his first introduction to doing Averis? He says, no, they didn't write Yud Kei Vav Kei. They wrote a Hey. Hey, you're allowed to erase. Okay, very relieving. Now, what's interesting is, this leads us to the next question. Because many people have the minig, they write something on top of the page. When they're writing something, Beis Hey, B'Siyata D'Shmaya. The question was asked, is anything wrong with writing Beis Hey? So we say, what's the problem? But the Ragat Tshuva, in a tshuva, actual tshuva printed in the Piskei Tshuva, the original Piskei Tshuva, Siman Reish Sadeh Gimel, that was printed about 70, 80 years ago. Someone asked him, why doesn't write Beis Hey on top of the page? He said, what do you mean why I don't write it? Because the Hey is the letter of Yud Kei Vav Kei. The Hey of Yud Kei Vav Kei. So I don't want to write one letter of Shem Hashem. Rav Moshe in Chelik Beis Yeridea Kuf Lamed Ches has the same conclusion. And he says, nothing wrong with writing Beis Hey, because if you're not going to throw it out, nothing wrong. But to put it on a shopping list, Beis Hey, that you can probably throw in the garbage after you go shopping, that's Mechikas Oisachas. Now this is a big chiddush, because who told you? Maybe Beis Hey the Hey is Hashem, like I say, Hashem. And like the B'nai Yoina that I just told you, that's obviously the Pshat. He used that as a Hey. And that's why Lamaisa, the Imrei Emes, is also in that same Piskei Tshuva as the Agdama, as Askama to the 3rd volume, it's all a thin volume, but the third chelik of that volume. He says, Milsa de Tmiya. What's the issur? Oichmer issur. He says, I have letters from my father, from my Zayder, from Shulam Igra. They wrote Beis Hey. Now, Lamais is not a raya from those Gedolim, because if you got a letter from Kedush Harim, you didn't throw it out. Even if it's a shopping list, you wouldn't throw it out. So it's not going to come with a Mechika. But Lamais, this is an interesting question. Because the truth is, some people, when they write a pasuk, and they don't want to write Shem Hashem, Vaydaber, they write a Daled. Why not Hey? Maybe they're worried. Now again, I don't know who started this minig, but I will tell you 2 interesting insights about the Ois Hey. One is the Torah Lishma, the Ben Ish Chai, and the Tshuva Siman Tav Chav Gimel. Someone asked him point blank, why do we use the letter Hey to Miramas Hashem Hashem? So he was a makubal. He says, well, the Pasha de Pshat, listen to the Pasha de Pshat, is because it says in Oyster Bekiva that the Shema Yishal HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that he created the world was with a Hey. Ki b'ko Hashem b'hi baram b'hei baram. And then he says more so. Why punkt Hey has such kedusha? This is all up Pshat. Forget about Al Pisod, you look for yourself. I can't even tell you. But he says, why hey? Because every letter you have to use both the svasim and the tongue. So occasionally there's a little spit, and that's lacking tahara. The one letter that comes easy is hey. Hey is pure. And that's why hey was chosen to represent the Shem Hashem. Al Pisoid, he says, because it's Olam de Izgalia, Ayin Shem V'Timtza. But there's something special about a hey. And more Gemara-dik, I should say, the Marsha and Sukkah, Nun Gimel, that famous sugya about how the letter saved from the great flood. He says they use the letter hey, ki b'ka Hashem tzorei lamim. So, Lamaisa, this is out of my range. You want to see the Maril and Simon Kuf Sadik Beis also explains why they chose the letter hey. But there is something there that the letter hey is more than a regular letter. So let me say the following. Lamaisa, the minig is, people write Beis hey, and especially if it's not going to come with a b'zayim, there's no shaila. If you're writing a shopping list or the like that will go in the garbage, it's probably better to write b'siyayta d'shmayim, because that has no kedusha. Or be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach and add a shin to the hey shin. Then you're indicating you mean Hashem. Or if some people write Imirtza Hashem with a shin. Okay, a dalit is a great idea, but I can't say it's wrong to write Beis Hey. If you get Beis Hey in the mail, you don't have to in a fundraiser, you don't have to put it in shaimos. Again, better b'siyayta d'shmaya. Pashid BH has no kedusha, at least to my knowledge. Maybe someone defines gemachi or something, but BH is just very nice at all. But let me tell you another beautiful shaila where you see that the understanding of the sugya gives us guidance. Someone asked Rabbi Moshe, they sent out to Fraya people, potential Balei Tshuva, to make it easier for them to say brachas. They were totally illiterate. They couldn't read Lashon Kodesh. So it's called in English transliterated. Not translated, transliterated. It means B-A-R-U-C-H, Baruch, Atah, and Hashem, it's the way you pronounce it, A-D-O-N-O-Y. Elokeinu, and it's written the way you read it. As you read it, and you're perfect. And they sent out thousands of these. How could you erase that Shem Hashem? So we would say, that's scary. That's worse than 2 Yudin. That's worse than maybe G-O-D, because that's Shem Hashem, Adus. So Dr. Moshe, there's nothing wrong with erasing it, throwing it away. Because again, the lettering have no meaning whatsoever. If you say it, then it's Yud Kei Vav Kei. But if the lettering is just English lettering, then there's nothing wrong. And Moshe and Archayim Beis and Hey points out, there's no issur of erasing that, transliterate Shem Hashem. He asks, why? How could it be less of a shaila than 2 Yudin? There's his pashut. 2 Yudin, because each Yud is part of Yud Kei Vav Kei. And A-D-O-N-O-Y, none of it's part of Yud Kei Vav Kei. I found that beautiful. Again, once you understand the Yisai. The next question is the recorded Shem Hashem. I have the Shai on the Yeshiva. The Bachim have a tape of a shmooze, a very chashuv shmooze, Adam Gadol. In the middle of the shmooze, he made a bracha on a cup of water. So every time you listen to the shmooze, they hear Baruch Atah and Shem Hashem. And it bothers them. They're being Mazal Shem Hashem. Should they erase it or leave it as it is? So the emphasis is, the original shaila was by a record, if you remember that, or a tape. The Minchas Alaz and Chayla Gimel, Chafei, the L'Bushei Mordechai, the Madarav, and Dalet, Chav Beis, and the Betzina Rav, and Chayla Zayin, Kunjazachsim, and Tamachei, Moshe Aleph, Kovayin Gimel, all say, Shem Hashem, recorded Shem Hashem has no Kedusha. You don't say Amen, you can't be Yaitza Bracha. But Lamaisa, to play it for no reason, says the Betzina Rav, Mechu Adav Ma'oid. Now the svara is Kol Makom Sheshem Shemayim Mitzuya Aniyas Mitzuya. It says Mitzuya. It means it's being abused. You're playing in it. The Chazan singing, Shem Hashem. It's B'zayin. So the Betzina Rav calls it Mechua Ma'oid. Now he does say, if you're listening to hear how a tzaddik davened, so that's a yelas. I'll tell you this in Yana D'Yoyim, because they sell soon Chanukah. You see it. They have a CD, V'chatzis Kachrechem, of 50 gedolim making Berchos Chanukah. So you have 50 times 3 brachas b'Shem Hashem, and you spend money for that. Teretz says, yeah, if you have a Cyrus, it's fine. But Lamaisa, there's no kedusha per se on a recorded sound. Now let's go to step 2. So how about erasing it? So here, again, the Minchas Yitzchak, the Abi Yoim, Tzitz Eliezer all say there's no issur mechika, because no shame. Rav Moshe, in the Yardea Beis, Kuf Mem Beis, use the same word, mechua hadava, to erase it. Because it represents Shem Hashem. Now, again, where it's coming from? I'll tell you where. Such as the hearers that you have to ask if you're allowed to use a Shem Hashem to save the world from a flood, the same Zahira says, don't erase it. What I saw, which is interesting, the Chelkas Yaakov and Archaim Kuf Chav Daled was also asked about erasing Shem Hashem. And this is negayat in many different ways. And he says he feels there is an issur. Because Lamaisa, you are erasing a Shem Hashem. And he has a very interesting svar. Let's say I show you abstract lines and funny formation. You say, what's that? Oh, you don't know, that's the Shem Hashem in Japanese. Can you erase the Shem Hashem in Japanese? Can you erase the Shem Hashem written in Braille for a blind person to decipher? He said, Vad you could. Vad you can't, I'm sorry, because it's Shem Hashem. Japanese, as you gave up in their understanding. So, Oy Bazoi, he says, on a tape, that there is a magnetic encoding that's able to be deciphered and read as Adoy, the way you say it. So Mali lines in Japanese or Braille, or Mali lines in a magnetic encoding on a tape. That's what he wants to say. Now the Emes, the Chelkas Yaakov, was a big maven in Metzias. You'll see all his tshuvas. But what I tell you, this thing he made a mistake. I saw the Debatzina Rav and others say that this is not true. This is factually incorrect. Because in Braille and Japanese, there are lines, something. On a tape, it's not more than magnetic encoding, but there are no lines. So the Metzias is that it's not analogous to a Braille or Japanese. Now, I would add a little more geschmack to this. There's a famous sugya of a koisiv get b'mei milim, which is invisible link, that's the right word. So we'll soon see the Gemara in your Testament Beis. Rashi says that Lamaisa, it's there. And we'll soon see the Metzias of it. But we're still comfortable to say maybe Mei Milan, the lettering is there. But on a tape, there is no lettering. So that's why I'm comfortable to say that there's no issur mechika. Mechua dava, yeah, but no mechika. Oh, I told the Bacham, use logic. To keep on playing the same thing, Shem Hashem, again and again, that's also mechua. So one mechua is better than 10 mechuas. Now both of them are not really awesome, but erase it once. Taka the Ber Moshe in Kunjazach and Siman Samach Beis has this very shaila. It says erase it once, better than listening over many times. Now, a CD that we have is a different, it's not really magnetic encoding, a different type of codes. But again, to my knowledge, at this point, there is no CD that has actual lettering engraved or burnt onto the actual CD. A more of a shaila, seems to be more of a shaila, is Shem on a computer. Someone told me he bought a software, he put it on, and in big letters, Yud K Vav K. Now, where do you go from there? Or better yet, people that check Sifrei Torah with the computer. Or if someone davens Ma'ariv with a phone, and he scrolls after he finishes Krishma. What do you do with all those shaimos? So Lamaisa, again, this is a part of a big sugya, but at the end of the day, on a computer, phone or computer, there is no actual lettering. The Metzias is there are actually pixels, little lights, pixels, millions of lights actually, that they're constantly being generated to keep it illuminating. But it's not that you're erasing a lettering. You're stopping it from reappearing. So, and also the fact is that, again, there is no printout, so the pesukim are comfortable, there is no problem. But it's inspiring to see Rav Vosna, in the Zion Siman Daled, who struggles mightily to find a better heta for the Mishmer Stam that check with computers. And he wasn't comfortable to say this svara, I'm not sure why, but again, if you're on fire like Sas and Cain, you don't play around. He tries to find the svara Azoy, Metazoy. And I saw a very nice quote from Rav Sternbach Zayin Gesund. Someone asked me, is it mutter lechatchila to erase a Shem Hashem on a computer? So he writes, and I quote, I can't say it's mutter lechatchila, but I could say there's no issur. See, that the truth there is no issur. But just to randomly just erase a Shem Hashem, make sure there's a purpose. A beautiful shaila that all the pesukim discuss, and this goes back a while already, that you could take today. It's called micro writing or microfilm. Actually, they could take a lamoshel. I've seen already an entire Ruzil Hamalach, and people carry it for shmira, and it's like can't carry a sefer, so they made a smaller sefer. Now they have the entire Ruzil Hamalach on a card. It's reduced greatly. Erzrol printed stamps. One of the stamps have Yeshaya. Okay, the government. I'm not sure why they do it. They have a 10 lirot, a dollar, a money with Shem Hashem on it. The shaylos are endless. The kitzah, something like that. Even if you have the best vision, you can't see it. But here's the metzias. There is an absolute lettering that's there. So imagine you have a stamp with Shem Hashem. You put it on, you mail it out. Comes to the post office, they stamp it. That's mechika. Mechika is lav dafka racing. If you put it over white out on the Shem Hashem, it's mechika. So the question, can you use this stamp? So as early as the Marsham in Chele Gimel Shin Nun Zayin, the Umtzia Dava Chadash, the entire Chav Dalid Kisvei HaKodesh, Gans Tanach, with Malachas Photographia, but it's avadi, it's illegible. So he goes into a shaila about, they put it on a necklace, hanging on a necklace. Allowed to go into the Beis HaKisi with it. But it seems from him that the concern of it is because it's really a Shem Hashem that's there. But there's no consideration of the fact that it's too small. Because the emes is, it's all there. So that's why Lamaisa, it seems that he seems to hold it is considered a real Shem Hashem. That's the Marsham and other pesukim. However, there's a different tshuva when you call it's quoted in the Heintige pesukim, and he holds that if you can't see it with your eye, it's not there. Now he brings a raya which the pesukim are doichem, but I saw a beautiful raya. Tiferes Yisrael and Rabbi Dezara Perek Beis Yivkot Gimel. He says there was a certain fish that had, he writes the, I'm not going to read, I don't think we know what it is anyhow, that had the scales, but you could only see it with a microscope. It was so tiny that the human eye, no matter how good you see, you couldn't see it. So he says it's considered a tray for fish. Because whatever you can't see with the human eye doesn't exist. And that's his yisoid. Now, of course, this has no bearing on the shaila of insects in vegetables, because they're there, just you don't have to see them. But something that no human eye could see is on the halachos. So I saw the B'ya'im and Dal Chavtes and Hey Kuf Nun Zayin, they both put a great impact on micro writing. If nobody could see it, it's not there. Of course, they're arguing on the Marsham. You have to have places for that. But what's interesting is, I'll tell you something to think about. The Gemara in Gittin that I mentioned earlier, Testament Beis, about invisible ink. So Rashi's lashon is Lamaisa Kishay Beluyos Loy Hoyaksav. It's not, you don't see it. So the question is, but you bring it out, is it there or not? So Rashi seems to say that May Milim, it's there, but if you don't bring it out, it's not a good get. So now I want to ask you, think about this. What will we compare this micro writing? Is it like May Milim? Because the emphasis is there. But it's there in a way that nobody could see it. See, May Milim is a regular get, but you have to bring it out. But it's a regular get. Once you bring it out, that everybody could see. Here the lettering is so minuscule that nobody could see it. This is probably what's totally the machloik is micro writing, microfilm, a ksiva or not. So think about that. But one thing I wonder, if you hold is not a ksiva, I'm not sure the Reziel Amalach on the card works. Because if it's not a writing, then how could it be a shmira? Okay, now, Lamaisa, these are all the chochmas that people have. But talking more tachlis, I saw a truth from Rav Moed, a base Kuflam and Hay, that they, again, this goes back years ago, people are not as learned as they are today. They sent out copies of brachas, different brachas that people say, because people needed nusach, alamichya, burn afashayis, tefillas haderech, and they wrote it with the Shem Hashem. So Moshe was mamish upset. He says, how can you do such a thing? You know, people get fundraising letters. What do you do with them? What do people do with them? Right in the garbage. Okay. You said you wrote warning, put it in shaimos, but they don't open the letter. How can they put it in? They read it. And even if you do read the warning, but you do it anyhow. and someone told you in my name you're allowed to, chas v'shalom, how do you play games with Shem Hashem? He says, my invitations, my children's chassid, I don't even print pesukim. And this is a point that we have to mention, it's gotten out of hand. Baruch Hashem, printing is cheap. Everybody wants to be really, Jewish sounding, and every business and every Chalamoy trip has pesukim and gans. I saw an advertisement, a Pesach in the Bahamas, pardon me, v'samachta v'nei Hashem alekecha shivas yomim. Needs no further elaboration. But that's not where Shem Hashem is supposed to be used. With a hey, without a hey. But Ramosha says, don't use pesukim. But Kolshkein to use Shem Hashem. Rabbi Yashiv was asked a sticky question. They were sending out to irreligious people that were starting to daven. And what do you send cards with all the brachas? If you say, write out the Shem Hashem, good. They'll read that. They can read. If you put a hey and Elokeinu with a kuf, they'll read it. Hey, Elokeinu. Because they know how to read. They're all Israelis. But they don't know the difference between Hashem, Elokeinu. So if you're going to put it Hashem, Elokeinu, they'll read Hashem, Elokeinu. Maybe put out Yud Kei Vav Kei. Rashi says, the Cheshvan are no good. You don't send out cards with Shem Hashem. So the sensitivity is like Sasun, Kain, Lashem, Elokeichem. We had a shaila but someone asked me about the whole psak. What's wrong? You're not erasing it. In the worst scenario, you're sending it to someone who will throw it out. Isn't that only a grammar? So that's really a share for itself. It's a big, big sugya. Because the Pashtus, the Gemara Darshans in Shabbos Kuvchav, it says, Leisasun kain Lashem Alekeichem, Asiyu da asa, but gram is mutter. So the Pashtus of the Gemara is that grammar in Shmichik Hashem is mutter. But it's definitely not Pashut at all. First of all, if you learn that the Makar is Hashem Alekeichem Tira, it doesn't use the Lashon of Asiya. But much more than that, there are Rishonim that hold that there's only a heta when it comes to this case of the Gemara where a person has to go for tefillah. So the mitzvah overrides the grammar. But when there's no reason to allow a grammar, chas v'shalom to be mekel. There are literally tens of tshuvas written by Gedolim, beginning with the early tough shins in America, about a tragic shaila of some. I should correct myself. I saw the Chazai Nochem and his brother, the Tribuna Rav, wrote before the war about such a shaila. So it goes back many years before the war that they wrote about a person that had a contagious illness and he was put in quarantine for a few months, and whatever he wore during that time had to be burnt. There was no monkey business. Can he wear tefillin for 3-4 months? And many Gedolim held it's awesome. It's a grama de grama. I'm wearing tefillin now. 4 months from now, not me, a person wearing tefillin for now. 4 months from now, he's going to leave the hospital, and a guy is going to burn the tefillin. What do I have to do with the guy's tefillin? There it says, Shem Hashem Leisasun Kain. So people are quick to say grama. It's wrong. The question is, a very vaita grama, a very where there's a reason, like a marshal Takasam held it's mutter, because this would be a vaita grama. It's now for later. But that's not a heta in itself. What's in America unavoidable, believe it or not, that every penny literally has Shem Hashem in it. Don't forget, literally. Penny, abba, up. Every penny up. Every dollar, every coin. Now, that, by the way, the founding father, that was Taka the Rebbeinu Shalom. They believe in the Rebbeinu Shalom. So here we have a question. That means you can't use it in money, because Kli sheyesh lav Shem Hashem. So first of all, it doesn't say Baruch Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei. So the only problem is G-O-D, that we said that Lamaisa, it's not as Chamor. But Lamaisa, there is still a problem. We saw that the pesukim hold that of using it, but Moichik not. But the question is B'Zayim. So here there's a very important yisoid that's negeh for this and many other shaylas. There's a Radvaz, a famous tshuva of the Radvaz that I mentioned earlier. The pesukim quote him, where the Radvaz writes that people gave him shaylas to answer, nice shtickle Torah, and when he went to the bathroom, he put it in his hat. That's what he writes. Because if there's no Shem Hashem, you're allowed, one kisui is enough. Varayi says, I carry it with me at all times, a little sefer mitzvahs that I learn whenever I have a spare moment. Keep it in my pocket, because if there's no Shem Hashem, then even if it's one covering, it's enough. So presumably in the pocket is one covering. Now, Lamaisa, the pesukim infer from here, let's say you have a siddur that has Shem Hashem, then you need 2 kisuyim. Lamaisa the Mishtabura in Mem Gimel Chaf Hey quotes 2 days. Some say Shem Hashem needs 2 kisuyim and some are mekel. Lamaisa the pesukim said we should be machmir, but Lamaisa there is a tati mekel even with Shem Hashem 1 kisuyim. But the Welt is taka machmir, and a siddur you put into a bag and that into your pocket. But Lamaisa, our money does not have Yud Kei Vav Kei. It's God, which there's no issur מחיקה. It's only B'zion. No, B'zion, 1 kisui is enough. And Zalman, there's Nidbur, and others say, money in your pocket, those don't take it out, you're okay. We had a Sha'al Yeshiva, someone wanted to write the name Yehuda, and ended up writing Yud Kei Vav Kei. Now that's a big sugi in Halachos Stam, it's a Masech T'Soifim actually, there's no Kedusha. The point is very simple, because Lamaisa, he didn't want to write Shem Hashem. Now, it's much more sticky if he wrote it in a Sefer Torah, because then you have to be Moichid and rewrite it. So that's a different sugya, but it has to be written with the Kedusha. A Rabbi once made photostat copies for his Talmidim of a Chumash, thinking there's no Shem Hashem in it, and there was Shem Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei. So here I told him that has to be a recall. Yud Kei Vav Kei has to be put in shaimos. If you printed mistakenly 2 Yudin, or even actually it's not so bad in Chatchila, as long as he won't come lidei b'zion, it's okay. Yud Kei Vav Kei, 2 Yudin, we're not moichik. As long as it doesn't come lidei mechika, we don't do that. But Yud Kei Vav Kei is a problem. So we ideally, when you write for children, you make a hey, because even 2 Yudin shouldn't be nimchak. But a mistake like this, Yud Kei Vav Kei, there has to be a recall, because attack is a problem. Next question is, someone showed me on a Goyish newspaper, I forgot the context, but it was Yud Kei Vav Kei on it. I think they made a picture of an artifact from the Second World War, real Yud Kei Vav Kei. So that's a problem, because that's really Yud Kei Vav Kei. Now, we do know the Gemara that a Sefer Torah shekas of min, you're allowed to burn it, because it has no Kedusha, because the min wrote it for Avodah Zarah. But this is a picture of a Val Yud Kei Vav Kei. So the fact that they put in the New York Times for no reason, that doesn't make it shame that has no Kedusha. And it's Taka Gedai to mention that when we have people sometimes go to a museum, they see a very interesting thing, take a picture of it. And there's Yud Kei Vav Kei on it. Then you have to put that in shaimos. Because there is no heta for that Yud Kei Vav Kei that was written to Kedusha. And last but not least, maybe Ha'achrein Hichbid is the shalom we began with. And that is, you have a Sefer, Chumash, a Siddur, that's used, and you want a new one, you buy a new one. So we are very quick to say, just put it in shaimos. Okay, but where does it go from shaimos? So let me tell you a little bit about the background. Be'emes, when a person that's doing shaimos properly, you have to bury it. You can't just leave it out, chas v'shalom, you have to bury it. But even burying is a big problem, because if you're burying in the ground, it's at least a gram mechika. It doesn't survive. The moisture, the rain, the bugs. And that's why the Chalkas Yaakov in Chaim Simimem says to bury shaimos Gemara that you don't use because you want to buy a new one, if it's still usable, is an issur. You're raising shaloi l'tzayrich. Now, the original shaimos was not shaimos, it was called Geniza. What's Geniza? They took the Sfarim and they put it in an attic. They put it away. They were goynizit, like the Cairo Geniza. They found Sfarim from thousands of years ago. Or we put it in the Aron Kodesh, an old Sefer Torah that's not usable. That's Geniza. But to bury it is minimally gram mechika. Navos, if there's no choice, you're allowed to bury it with a kli cheres that greatly delays, but it's done right, the decay. They could do it right, it could last for 100 years without decay. Now today they have a more modern kli cheres, they have an airtight, a plastic, not biodegradable container that's closed and airtight. It could also last. But that's only a heta, because it won't get ruined. But stam to put a siddur that's usable in the shaimos is wrong. First of all, give it to someone else, other shuls. Rav Moshe has a plea in Chelik Dal Lamed Ches that we cause much more shaimos than we need, because we print a big siddur, and in a shul that has the most usage is Mincha Ma'ariv, and after a year or two, the Mincha Ma'ariv is totally worn out. So what do? You can't leave it out because your clientele is Mincha Ma'ariv. So you put it in shaimos when the bulk of the siddur is usable. Print a Mincha Ma'ariv. Print a child siddur that's a fraction of the size. But the Maisa, the point is, we have to stop the burying. Even the burying is not mutter. Now, a siddur that won't be used, the best thing, especially in a camp, I told them, put it in one of the unused bungalows. That's Geniza. But the point that Rav Moshe says, we have to be careful not to create the problem. The printing, this indiscriminate printing is wrong. Don't forget, the Gemara says in Rosh Hashanah, Yud Ches, a mavaldik thing. They used to print the stories with the Shem Hashem in it until they stopped it, and that day, Zok the Gemara, they made a Yom Tiv. Zok the Aruch HaShulchan, why? In Chayshemish, B'chav Zayin, Gimel, because it's an Avain Chama Ma'ad Ma'oid to be Mazal to the Shem Hashem. So the Musa Haskell that we have today is that we can make the mitzvah Hashem al Kechatira to treating shaimos properly. I'm going to talk to you all. Kaddish? No.
Shem Egen Shtar, you should have to Yehуда.
Hey! 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 I'm going to go with my now. Simcha.
Musicians that sing.
What?
Musicians that sing music. I am up with my husband is not singing.
Hamish? Wow. Okay, how are you?
Get the Yerusha, get this from the father.
How are you? Yeah, go ahead, listen. Simcha, one second. We make a sequel now. It's long, right after this. Good.
Okay.
Good. I don't want to. What's the okay? 2 hours. Twice.
Okay, seekum of today's shir.
Okay, Rabbi, just the chaz we learned today. There's the chaimah, the unusual chaimah leisasun kein laHashem ulekecha. The person with your shamayim has to know that this is an unusual issur besides the asay Hashem lekechatira. And basically, even one letter, as we said, each letter is like a stick of dynamite. There's a hoigas Hashem b'isi yosav, moichik ois achas. And basically, we don't write a shame Hashem unless it's going to last in a safe and not randomly. Avada, we don't write it on a keli. The shivisi Hashem that we have in siddurim with the yud kei vav kei spell, that has to be either taken away or protected properly. The shem shakai in the mezuzah is covered. It shouldn't come with a mechika. 2 yudin is not the Shem Hashem. It's a reference, and therefore, shaloi l'tzoyach gadol, you're not allowed to erase it, but it's really not the Shem Hashem. There's no chiyuv on geniza on a 2 yudin, but it shouldn't come with a bezoyan. G-O-D, Gimel Aleph Tes, we avoid saying shaloi l'tzoyach, but there's no issur mechika. When a person gets an aliyah, gently either kiss the side of the Sefer Torah, which is better, or if you want to cut the lettering, but not on the lettering itself. The names Yehuda, Gavriel, etc., is mutar mikidin to write it, and there's no chiv shaimos, hamachmer, tavei labracha. Shalom is more of an issue. Stay chemed and any other name word that happens to be Shem Hashem, but it's not intended for that. It's like El Moshe. No one says it's Shem Hashem. So stay chemed, sadeh mechulach is okay. Baruch Hashem, dehei sama medagtigim. There's good reason for that. Better to write b'sayta d'shmaya b'ez Hashem yisbarach, or use dalet versus hey. But if you do write beis hey, there's no chiv shaimos, obviously. Transliterated, you're allowed to erase. Shem Hashem on a tape or CD, or is mutter to erase, but it's mechua, shaloi tzoyrech klal. Computer or a phone, there's no issur mechika. Micro writing, we saw 2 very convincing arguments, so tein l'chacham v'yech kamoid. But basically, the big sugya is of grama is important for fundraisers to realize. Don't send out Shem Hashem and anything that will end with a bezoyin. You can't assume people put it in shaimos, even if you write a disclaimer. The money, there won't be mechika, and there's definitely no problem of bezoyin. It's one pocket. Shem Hashem should have ideally 2 coverings, the siddur in a bag, in your pocket. If you made a mistake and you copied a chumash with Yud Kei Vav Kei, there has to be recall. But basically, the point is, the Shem Hashem Mamash in a siddur or chumash should only be put in shaimos when there's no use of it and it goes to a proper burial. And the zehiris of using Shem Hashem is the Midah Toiva. It's the biggest Yom Tov, and we're careful with Shem Hashem.
Shem issur, I'd like to give a big issur to the Smith of today's shir. To have the great schools of sponsoring a shir called issur, 718-851-8651. Hashem hu Elokim, Ein Od Mevadai.